got something else to deal with, something less fun. Apparently, the Diddy trial started today, but as far as I'm aware, it's not being like filmed and released, at least not yet. So we have everything we need to know before the trial, so we can at least keep up with it. Cause I wasn't around for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard shit, and that was peak fucking TV, bro. I was, oh my god, I'm so mad I missed that. So for right now, he rejected it. I mean, he what do you mean he rejected it? Like he is not going to court because he doesn't want to? What do you mean? But yeah, let's get into this shit for the trial prep. Cause I don't know everything, but like, listen, I know enough to be like, this nigga's cooked. That's why it has to be televised. It has to be put out there so people can learn. Like that. That's one of the biggest things why people keep doing shit. Cause individuals aren't singled out and made an example of. This is a time when you make super rich, famous people an example.
Is right around the corner, and it's about to be.
Hey, that's loud shit. At least in my ear it was. Yeah, fuck it.
An all-out war.
Is there anything that you may want to confess tonight before you go in?
I keep everything right here. Or right here.
There you go.
We're only
Even that little bit, you didn't even need the editor to do that. You didn't need him.
Is there anything that you may want to confess tonight before you go in?
You did not need to zoom in on this.
I keep everything right.
Jesus Christ. I see why you zoom in on her, but his face was broadcasted.
Here. Or right here.
There you go.
we're only days away from the start of Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial, and the entire rap game is shook about what might go down. Diddy's lawyers have already filed a desperate motion to delay their client's case, only to be brutally shut down by the judge. With everything set to kick off on May 5th, the whole world is wondering what's actually gonna happen inside that courtroom. That's why we're doing a comprehensive primer on everything you need to know before Diddy's trial starts. What are the exact crimes Diddy is accused of committing? Why are the feds hitting Diddy with the same law used to take down the mafia? And which one of Diddy's
If I'm allowed to, absolutely. Even if I'm a fucking month late to it, I don't give a shit. I will watch that entire thing from start to finish.
accusers refuses to stay anonymous? We've even dug
Especially if there's multiple parts, like the Depp and her trial. That shit like fucking 5 parts to it. Shit was long as fucking. It was peak every time. His lawyer was a fucking beast. Oh my god! And he himself, the way he carried himself, and listen, it was art. What happened at the trial?
through hundreds of pages of legal documents to figure out all the behind-the-scenes drama happening in the courtroom. Why did one of Diddy's high-powered lawyers suddenly quit the case? And who's the heavy-hitter rap game attorney that they're tapping to replace him? Finally, we're gonna give a thorough...
And we have to hear these defenses. If he has a defense lawyer, we have to hear what the fuck that motherfucker says, because that would be the reach of all time. It would be the Michael Jordan from Space Jam the entire time.
play-by-play preview of how the first days of the Diddy trial might play out.
So many
how are
memes
Diddy's
out that
lawyers and the feds gonna handle the jury selection process?
His resolve is the same. He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent, and we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer.
Back in September of 2024, the federal government unveiled a massive criminal indictment against Diddy. In the document, the feds accused Diddy of masterminding his very own organized crime ring. The indictment claims that Diddy used the employees' resources and influence of his billion-dollar business to carry out crimes, and that he was a shot caller who ordered members and associates to do his bidding. Prosecutors say that Diddy, quote, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. More specifically, the indictment goes into detail about how Diddy allegedly used his employees to arrange his so-called freak-offs. And in case you don't know what the freak-offs are, that's what Diddy allegedly called his sex parties. Prosecutors claim that Diddy regularly transported female and male sex workers to take part in his freak-offs, and that he drugged them.
I agree. Like, it's crazy how anyone can even pretend. Like, outside of being scared, I don't see why anyone would even try to defend. Like I said, his lawyer dipped out. His lawyer left. His original lawyer left. Listen, it's just fucking crazy. And there's something else though to note and to be important. Just because you're at a Diddy party doesn't necessarily mean that you did anything or that you're liable for anything. Because there's a lot of people who go to Diddy parties or have gone to, and I can't imagine every single one of them being something. Like there's definitely times where it's like you're just there for a little bit and leave. Like you don't know what's going on. It's like it's what's behind closed doors that's the problem, not what happens at like the party, the actual party. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's important to separate the two.
Them to keep them obedient and compliant. The indictment also alleges that Diddy would keep these sex workers in line with physical, emotional, and verbal abuse, including, quote, acts of violence and threats of violence. Basically, the indictment paints a very, very dark picture of Diddy allegedly using drugs, violence, and tons of money to throw these insane sex parties for himself. In total, Diddy was hit with 3 felony charges: racketeering, sex trafficking, and transporting to engage in prostitution. But that wasn't all, because in the months since that first indictment, the feds have doubled back and dropped 3 superseding indictments on Diddy's head. This basically means that investigators have added fresh evidence and allegations to stack on top of their initial indictment. The first superseding indictment was filed on January 30th of 2025. In the 15-page document, prosecutors expanded the timeline around Diddy's racketeering charges from 2004 to 2024. And while the new indictment didn't contain any new charges, it added 2 new sex trafficking victims and accused Diddy of dangling someone from a high-rise apartment balcony. On March
What the fuck? I immediately thought of the whole blanket Michael Jackson situation when he said that. So it's like if people saw him, well, people are already outside of the his hotel room when Michael Jackson did that. But like a baby versus a whole ass person, how do someone not notice that? Like how are there not pictures of that?
March 6, less than 2 months later, the feds dropped another superseding indictment. This new document also didn't contain new charges, but it included more info on the feds' allegations, including accusations that Diddy forced employees to work long hours with no sleep.
Yeah, that dude from Nickelodeon was crazy story, bro. Seeing him in pictures with Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy and all them is like, oh, I don't like that. It, like even like prior to knowing anything, just those pictures, him next to anyone looks weird. He's a weird looking dude to begin with. I don't know. He's like why he's not walking red flag outside of money.
And threatened them. But on April 3rd, prosecutors unleashed a third superseding indictment.
That's the thing though, 10 days. It's not the laws. The laws are clear. It's people don't give a shit about the laws in the first place. That's the problem. It's the greed. It's the power. It's the dark side of humanity.
Indictment, and this one had grave
Laws
ramifications
really
for Diddy's
that.
case. The latest update stacked 2 more charges against Diddy, 1 additional sex trafficking by force offense and 1 additional transportation to engage in prostitution offense. But what kind of prison time is Diddy looking at for these alleged crimes? The mandatory minimum for Diddy's twin sex trafficking by force charges is
55,000 years.
15 years, but the maximum is life in prison. Meanwhile, Diddy's 2 transportation to engage in prostitution charges can rack up a maximum of 10 years behind bars. But the allegation that Diddy's lawyers are most worried about is the racketeering charge.
Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled.
Do you think that what happened to Biggie would be released during this trial, like as like a tangential thing? Wouldn't that be kind of fucking crazy?
To carry out criminal activity.
While there's been a ton of focus on the sex trafficking allegations against Diddy, the racketeering charge against him could easily carry the biggest legal consequences. In fact, if a jury finds Diddy guilty on the racketeering count alone, it could get him life in prison. And if you don't know what racketeering means, it's a term that basically says that someone set up an illegal business or organization. 15 years ago, the government passed the RICO Act to target organized crime groups like the mafia. Basically, if you got hit with a racketeering and conspiracy charge, commonly affectionately known as RICO, it means that the feds are saying that any crimes you committed were part of a criminal conspiracy. Prosecutors have used RICO charges to go after everyone from John Gotti to the Chicago Mafia to Young Thug's YSL Records. But there's where it gets super tricky for Diddy. In order to find Diddy guilty on his RICO charge, prosecutors only need to prove that he committed 2 of the crimes that he's been accused of. When you read the indictment, the feds allege that Diddy ordered
only 2 of the crimes for the whole RICO come on his head. The rest of it is just fucking extras at that point. Jeez, 2? That's a slam dunk.
associates to commit sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, robbery, and obstruction of justice. So if the government can convince jurors that Diddy committed any 2 of these so-called predicate offenses,
I really don't think at this point need any kind of public input. The public's made their fucking opinion pretty clear. That jury, you will not find a juror of his peers. I promise you that.
then he'll automatically be found guilty on his RICO count. The federal sentencing
gonna be
guidelines
fucking
also
super
means
long.
Diddy would rack up major prison time for any of the crimes he's found guilty under his RICO charge. That means it's very, very possible that Diddy's RICO charge alone can get him put behind bars for the rest of his life, even if he's acquitted on all other counts. When you take a closer look at the legal documents, it seems that the
what I'm
feds
saying,
have
it's a
tons
slam
of
dunk.
evidence that will back up their RICO charge. In a letter to the court, prosecutors allege that Diddy's co-conspirators were involved in the arson attack on an unnamed individual's car and that they have multiple witnesses on standby who are ready to testify about the incident. While the victim in the attack isn't named, the story sounds suspiciously like a situation that Kid Cudi confirmed happened to him
I remember
in
that story.
2012. I've already done a breakdown on the allegations that Diddy retaliated against Kid Cudi by blowing up his car, and it sounds like that situation might play a huge role in the Fed's RICO case against Diddy. Diddy's lawyers are gonna have to be on point to fight that racketeering charge, especially since the sentencing guidelines are so severe. The feds also clearly have a bunch of witnesses ready to go on record and testify against Diddy. Shh, don't tell anybody. While prosecutors
You know, I really don't like. I never really liked his fucking beady ass eyes. Like, not only are they like extra sunken in, but they're pretty close to each other. It makes them look extra creepy. You know.
Don't tell anybody. While
That's why they wear
prosecutors say
sunglasses
there are
all the time.
co-conspirators who will go on record, they also expect 4 different accusers to take the stand during the trial. But the feds have been very careful to shield the identities of these accusers. In the 4 unsealed indictments filed against Diddy, the accusers are only identified as Victim 1, Victim 2, Victim 3, and Victim 4. 3 of Diddy's accusers have requested that their identities be kept secret from the public and reporters in order to protect their safety and
Absolutely.
privacy. But prosecutors say that one accuser, Victim 1, is prepared to testify under her own name. That accuser is none other than Cassie Ventura, who was in an on and off again relationship with Diddy for 11 years. Now, Cassie's pretty much the reason why this whole scandal kicked off in the first place. 10 months before Diddy was arrested and hit with Fed charges, Cassie unveiled a shocking civil lawsuit against her former partner. The lawsuit alleged that Diddy beat, trafficked, and sexually assaulted Cassie for over a
I'm pretty sure that he was trying to hopscotch some shit for a while before that happened, and that I don't think that was the kickoff. That was the explosion point, right? Everything was pretty kind of like still hearsay until that. When that video came out, that was it.
decade, and that he used his vast connections as a label boss to ruthlessly control her life. Just one day after Cassie's lawsuit was filed, Diddy settled with her for an undisclosed amount. Terms of the settlement weren't made public, and Diddy's lawyers stressed that him paying up was not an admission of guilt. But it's safe to say that the insanely
Of course he would say that. Why? What else would you possibly say to that? Oh yeah, I paid her off because I am guilty. No, the only thing you could possibly say is that. Even saying nothing is worse than saying that.
settlement raised a lot of
crazy.
eyebrows, even though Diddy called the allegations outrageous and offensive. But some key details in Cassie's lawsuit did get proven out. One allegation Cassie made was that Diddy violently attacked her in the hallway of an LA hotel, and that he paid the hotel
Oh,
in
I got
order
the
to get
timeline
access
wrong.
to the
My bad.
security footage. 6 months after the lawsuit was filed, footage
That's what
from
I was thinking
2016 leaked that showed Diddy allegedly hitting, kicking, and dragging Cassie in a hotel hallway, seemingly backing up her accusations. Diddy responded by releasing an apology video where he said that he was disgusted with himself. Meanwhile, Diddy's lawyers defended the footage as a glimpse into a complex but decade-long consensual relationship.
Okay. See, what we're not gonna do is spin a kink into domestic abuse defense.
Diddy's attorneys also claimed that the hotel security footage was manipulated and tried to prevent the video from being shown at trial. The lawyers alleged that the video was supposedly sped up and shown out of sequence, claiming that it was deceptive. But on April 25th, Judge Arun Subramanian completely shut down Diddy's attempts to keep the footage out of the trial, ruling that some of the video will be shown to jurors. Prosecutors also plan to include 9 videos of Diddy's so-called freak-off tapes that were reportedly provided to the government by Cassie Ventura. While Diddy's lawyers argue that the videos confirm Mr. Combs' innocence, Cassie's testimony and involvement is obviously going to play a major role in the government's case against their client. But there's also been some really significant shakeups going on behind the scenes.
When a top attorney quits your case in the language used, under no circumstance can I continue. I think people are just pointing at that and say, he can't defend him, and making their own assumptions from there. There have been kind of reports.
Is that not a fair assumption to make? I mean, like, come on. Diddy is a very rich person. If you were to win that case, then you would probably be a very rich, powerful person yourself. Or, the right hand of the devil. But that is exactly why he can't do it. That's exactly why he left. There's no other reason, logically, as to why he would leave. The money's not worth it.
Circulating, it seemed like there was a breakdown between Diddy's attorneys about going to trial in May.
The huge amount of scrutiny on the trial also means that Arun Subramanian, the judge presiding over the case, faces a ton of pressure. Subramanian used to work as a law clerk for the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Subramanian has been on the bench since 2023, ever since President Joe Biden nominated him as a federal judge. But Subramanian wasn't even the first judge assigned to Diddy's case. The previous judge, Andrew Carter, was swapped out in October of 2024 without a reason being given. That's not all though, because Diddy's defense roster has gone through some major changes too. In February of 2025, reports surfaced that attorney Anthony Ricco quit the Bad Boy Boss's stacked legal defense team. Like Diddy, Ricco is a Harlem native, and he had tons of experience defending some really notorious, well-known figures. Ricco was once Osama bin Laden's defense attorney, and he also helped secure an acquittal for guest card is Nora, an undercover cop who shot an unarmed black man named Sean Bell in 2008. Ricco's seasoned reputation made his departure all the more surprising.
He was Osama bin Laden's defense lawyer and he leaves you? That is insane. That's actually, he's a literal terrorist. And he leaves Diddy's side. Saying under no circumstances can I continue. That is unquantifiably insane. You would rather stand by a terrorist than stand by Diddy.
According to a notice filed on February 20th, Ricco wrote, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel without giving any further details." Despite Ricco leaving the defense team, Diddy has retained a squad of 5 other defense attorneys. His team is led by Mark Agnifilio, who has his own history of defending controversial figures. He previously represented the so-called farmer bro Martin Shkreli and Keith Raniere, founder of the infamous sex cult NXIVM. In fact, Agnifilio had already begun to preview a strategy to get Diddy out of jail. On April 25th, Diddy's lawyers argued that their client was a swinger, not a criminal. Quote, there's a lifestyle, call it swingers or whatever you will, that he thought was appropriate because it was common. Many people think it's appropriate because it's common.
So I guess we have a running theme here, don't we? Trying to spin kinks into a domestic abuse or sexual abuse defense. And that never holds water. Right? It like, especially with what we've seen and the things we've heard, there's definitely a line between things. Like this, like the money involved, it's like the whole thing's messy, but it never really works.
It was appropriate because it was common. Many people think it's
I need to think
appropriate
about that one
because
more,
it's
but
common.
you see what I'm
Essentially, Agnifilio plans to convince the jury that Diddy
Exactly,
did nothing
swinger,
illegal
huh? Right.
and that the alleged
Swinger
freak-offs
across the
were
goddamn
all
room.
consensual encounters. But Diddy's still working hard to lure new talent to his side. On April 15th, court documents revealed that high-powered defense attorney Brian Steele requested permission to join Diddy's legal team. While Steele has been a highly respected lawyer for decades, he recently became famous for defending Young Thug during his RICO case. Drake even made a whole song shouting him out called Brian Steele.
Shot Brian Steele, I'm too geek for the guy. Yeah, whoa, I've been in the house, but I'm coming outside tonight.
While Thug pleaded
Thank
guilty
God
to
he
drug
didn't
and
play the whole
gun-related
thing.
charges, he was allowed to go home after spending 2.5 years in state custody. Thug's release from jail was seen as a stunning victory, especially since he was facing a potential 120-year prison sentence. By getting Brian Steele to represent him, Diddy is clearly taking those racketeering charges mentioned before seriously. But Brian isn't the only hotshot attorney that Diddy's been trying to recruit. Joe Tacopina, who recently helped A$AP Rocky score an acquittal in this assault case, revealed during an
about to
interview with
fucking
who recently
fight
helped
somebody.
A$AP Rocky score
He's
an
like, all right, this judge being a whole bitch. Let me take my shit off. See, this is why we need to watch this shit, bro. The characters would be goddamn insane.
acquittal in this assault case, revealed during an interview with The Breakfast Club that Diddy was actively trying to hire him. Tacopina, however, said that he wasn't planning to work for Diddy, all because he wanted
like
to
a
stay
fucking
loyal
mob
to his
lawyer.
longtime clients, Jay-Z and Roc
Exactly,
Nation.
a mob lawyer.
Roc Nation, a lot of people in Rock I'm very close with. That's sort of family to me. And, you know, I don't think they're sort of
see eye to eye on things.
See eye to eye with.
Last question.
There's no way somebody didn't go back in time to 1920s and pull him out into this time period. He is a fucking mob lawyer, bro.
But just weeks later, Tacopina gave an interview to Vlad TV where he walked back some of his Diddy criticism.
I didn't turn
might
around
wanna
because
watch
I don't
that.
like him or I don't believe in his case. I think he's got a very defensible case. I mean, this whole case boils down to an issue of consent, right? And as far as I know, I don't know all the evidence. But
What the fuck did I just? I might have to fucking watch that because we're not doing that. We're not spinning a fucking kink into a defense like that. We're not doing it.
Right? Did they consent or did they not? I mean, was a gun put to someone's head? Or
Potentially, yeah.
did they want to do it because they were getting all the perks associated with being part of a Diddy party and being one of Diddy's
Who the fuck are we talking
And
about?
in an even more recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter this past April, Tacopina seemed way more open to joining Diddy's team.
Don't make me find that
I'm
fucking
going to
interview,
speak with
bro.
him. I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just gonna listen. Diddy is clearly trying to hire some of the biggest defense attorneys in the game right before his case begins. But is this an act of desperation
That was good.
or
That was
part
a
of
good
his master
graphic.
strategy? And what exactly is gonna happen on May 5th, the first day of trial?
It will be up to 12 residents of 8 New York counties, including some from upstate, to decide whether Sean Diddy Combs walks away from this case a free man or stays locked down for decades.
The case is set to begin with jury selection. Diddy's lawyers are already prepping jury questionnaires that they plan to use so they could weed out which prospective jurors might be more sympathetic to their defense. According to reports, Diddy's defense team plans to question jurors about their views on subjects like drug abuse, alcoholism, violence, and people with multiple sexual partners. In a letter submitted to the court, Diddy's lawyers say the questionnaires will help jurors be more open about their opinions. Quote, because this trial involves content that is sensitive and private in nature, many individuals are uncomfortable speaking about these issues in front of others and would be more candid writing about them in a questionnaire. Diddy's lawyers
fair.
also want to quiz jurors on if they watched any documentaries on their client since the charges were announced against him. Given the staggering amount of media attention
Can't be
focused
hard
on
not
Diddy,
to, right?
his attorneys are going to be on the lookout for any jurors who might have been influenced by outside content. However, prosecutors have outright criticized Diddy's jury selection strategy. They say the questionnaire is way too long since it contains 72 questions, and that the subjects they touch on would be better addressed if a judge asked them instead. If the jury selection process goes according to schedule, opening statements from the prosecution and defense are set to begin 1 week later on May 12th. While a jury selection typically takes about a week, it could easily take much longer since this is such an intensive, high-profile case. For comparison, the 1994 trial for O.J. Simpson had a punishing 11-week jury selection process. Given Diddy's notoriety and fame, it's very possible that jury selection could drag on here too. Diddy's defense—
That's what I was saying before. You're not going to be able to find a jury that is not aware of this guy. People have been talking about this man since the 90s at least.
Attorneys have every reason to fight tooth and nail to get jurors that might be more favorable to their client, and based on their questionnaire, they're prepared to do exactly that. Now, with jury selection right around the corner, the clock is ticking. Diddy's trial promises to shake up the entire music industry, and we're gonna be locked in to cover every single detail of it. So definitely stay tuned.
Hey, that's my fucking line, you motherfucker. No, but for real, I probably, if they're not gonna fucking, if they're not going to stream the thing, then I'll keep up with this guy for the fucking news of it. Because we're already here. Why not? We're already invested.